Hey there, and welcome to episode 39 of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. In this episode, I am chatting with the lovely Jacqueline Butler all about zero to profits and how to master consistent passive income from scratch on Etsy. Jacqueline is an Etsy and online business coach who teaches her students how to make profitable passive income by selling digital downloads on Etsy. She is a top 0.1 Etsy star seller with over 80,000 sales and 5,000 five-star reviews. She is firmly anti-hustle and teaches her students how to build a profitable and sustainable digital product business with proven strategies that don't rely on posting on social media or paid advertising. When she's not crafting her next digital product, you'll find her chasing after her 2 young kids, cozied up with coffee and a book, or binge watching Real Housewives. If you have ever thought about having an Etsy store and selling digital products online, or you have an Etsy store but you're not quite seeing the results yet that you would like, but you don't know where you're going wrong or what to do to maximize and make more sales on Etsy, this episode is for you. Because Jacqueline is diving into how she grew her online business while she was in a teaching job that she didn't love, how when she knew was enough and it was time to resign, and how she overcame that fear of losing the security that education careers handcuff you with, to then how she went to build her current business to 6 figures from Etsy in less than 2 years. She's sharing some simple strategies about how her experiences now align perfectly with her to be able to sell digital products on Etsy, and how you can do the same, and her best tips to get started today with selling digital products on Etsy without social media or paid advertising. Grab a notebook and pen, because if you have been thinking about an Etsy store or ready to take your Etsy store to the next level, this episode is for you. There are so many golden nuggets in this episode, and I definitely need to go back and listen to this again with my notebook and pen, because if you don't know already, I do have an Etsy store, but it's a little baby of a store, and I know that I don't give it as much attention as it really truly deserves, and I know that it has potential, and I've made sales and I have 5-star reviews, but I haven't quite yet got it to where I would like it to be, because I know that I haven't been giving it the attention that it deserves. And the tips and strategies that Jacqueline is sharing in this episode are really going to help me take mine to the next level, and I know that it can help you do the same too. So pop those earbuds in, settle down with a cup of coffee, that notebook and pen, and let's dive into all the amazing goodness and golden nuggets that Jacqueline has got to share all about Etsy and how to go from zero to profits by mastering consistent passive income by having a digital shop on the Etsy platform. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mompreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mompreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. Hey Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining us on the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. Super excited that you are here to share what you're going to be sharing with us today.
Yes, I'm so happy. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So we are going to be diving in and talking about all things about Etsy and how your secret success is to get into your six figures and everything that you've been doing. So just in case listeners haven't come across you before, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, your family, and how you've got to where you are now?
Yes, sure. So I am a boy mom of two little guys, a kindergartner and a second grader, who are just the loves of my life, but they also give me a run for my money, for sure. And I am a former teacher. So I taught for 14 years before I went full time into my Etsy business. But yeah, I started out as a teacher, actually a gym teacher. So, I mean, for anybody who doesn't think that they have the skills to become, a full-time Etsy entrepreneur or an online business owner. I had no skills that really translated except for, being a teacher and being able to create worksheets and stuff like that. I wasn't a graphic designer or even an art teacher. So, when I decided that I was going to move into this direction, it really was something I had to pull from little pieces of my teaching life. And we can get to that in a little bit, but I'm just north of Philadelphia. I worked on my Etsy business while I was teaching. It really brought me just incredible results. And I just sold digital products. So I didn't sell anything physical. I didn't sell anything handmade. I just sold digital products. And it ultimately tripled my teaching income. And I left this summer, resigned from my teaching position, and went full time being an Etsy entrepreneur. And as I was doing that and I was creating, I got crazy and decided to open up a couple more shops. And just because you can scale Etsy in such an incredible way. I realized, the freedom that it actually gave me of not being tied down by, the work hours of what my teaching job was, by my 9 to 5, all of that. By not being tied down, I was able to just have the freedom, the little things like having hot coffee in the morning and being able to take my kids to school and picking them up and going and being homeroom mom for the Halloween party. It was those freedoms that meant more to me than any kind of monetary goal that I would have had. And so now, because I had that, I feel like I need to share what I did, to share that with other women who maybe are looking for those similar freedoms. Like, it's not so much about the money as it is just being able to do what you want to do with the time that you have while you can. And that was something I wake up every single morning so incredibly grateful, because I'm not teaching and I'm able to be with my kids. Like, my kids are at that age where they still love me, like that young age, they still love me. And I don't want to miss out on that, being teaching and not being there with the kids. So now I coach women how to sell digital products on Etsy so that they can also experience the freedom, like whatever that freedom looks like to them. Because, being rich and being wealthy looks different to everybody. For me, it's not so much the money, it's just being able to be there for my kids. Like, that's rich to me.
I love that so, so much. And that is just the thing, there's why so many of us mums want to start businesses and have a business like that fits around family and gives us that time freedom as well as the wealth freedom of being able to do the things and be present with our kids, because that time goes so, so fast. And like you say, you want to be able to enjoy it while they still love you. They're not out
Yeah.
doing their other things, and the stroppy teenager, which I battle a little bit with now, and all of that sort of stuff, and being able to call the shots. And success just looks different for everybody. And so often we think about wealth and success as being monetary, but it doesn't have to be at all. It can be that wealth of the abundance that it gives you everywhere else. And it's exactly the same for me. The whole reason I started my business was to be around and have quality time with my boys and be able to do the school run, be able to be there for the school things, and spend that quality time for them. And so I'm really excited to dig in there. I know the amazing tips and strategies you've got to share with us today, because as I was sharing with you before we jumped on, that I've got my own Etsy store where I'm just selling a few digital printables that I started last year, but I've only dabbled with it. I haven't really, I know that, and it does make sales, but I'm not giving it the attention that it deserves. And I know that if I put more into it, that I could do something with it and it would be better than it is now. So I'm really excited to see what you're going to be sharing. But I also know that from the people that, the mums that listen to the show, that a lot of them have considered and thought about having Etsy stores and selling digital products. And also that a lot of my coaching clients they are mums that have been working full time or have a job and they want to get out of that 9 to 5 so that they can have that time freedom, but they struggle with knowing where to start, of how to, do those early stages of growing their business. And I think it's amazing that you've managed to triple your income of what you were earning as teaching so that you could then step away from that. So let's dig into that. How did you juggle growing your online business whilst teaching that being in the teaching job?
So I'm going to just kind of take you back like to the beginning, back in 2016, because that's when I found out I was pregnant with my first son. And when I was doing that, of course, when it rains, it pours, when life hits you, it hits you upside the head. And so I find out that I'm pregnant. We're also $50,000 in debt. We moved back in with my parents because we just need to get out of debt before this baby comes. We have 9 months before this baby comes. And as I'm pregnant, living at my parents' house, my husband loses his job, which great, let's just do that too. So I felt this responsibility, as a mom, like Mama Bear started already coming out, and I'm like, I need to find something to do to scrape together some kind of side hustle income to just make ends meet, because I love you, Mom and Dad, but I cannot live here with my new growing family. So I started looking up different side hustles, and I literally tried all the things for years, so we ended up staying at my parents' house for a year and a half, which was not the original plan. Scraped up enough money to move out into a little townhome. But all that time I was doing all these different kinds of side hustles. I was creating crafts with a Cricut machine and trying to sell that on Etsy. I was, going into MLMs. Skincare products and shakes and, all that stuff. I tried virtual assistants and social media management and freelancing. I did all these things because I was trying to, scrape together a couple bucks. But what was going on at that time is I had always known that there was some kind of entrepreneurial spirit within me. It wasn't, I wasn't looking at my teaching job and saying, man, I love teaching so much. How can I do more teaching? How can I do more tutoring? How can I coach? How can I, try to do more intramurals or after school activities? That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for something outside of teaching. And I think I always knew that I didn't want to be a teacher. I always knew it, but my mom was a teacher. My friends were going to be teachers. So when we were getting into the, adult world, that was just kind of all I knew. And there's security and there's pension and there's benefits and there's job security. So, having all of that was something that I can't leave. That would be stupid if I did something else for a side hustle, and none of those side hustles I was doing was actually adding up and creating that income that would make sense for me to leave. It was just this dream of how cool would it be if I didn't teach anymore? And how awesome would it be if I could work from home and actually make some good money? And so after trying all those things, I realized that what I didn't like about all those business models was that I was trading my time for money. Mm-hmm. So there was a ceiling there. There was only the amount of money that I could make stopped with how much time I could give. And so during that time, not only was I not making the amount of money I wanted, but all that time was taking away from my kids, And so all that time that I was not teaching, I was trying to side hustle, and I got wrapped up in that hustle culture, and it burnt me out, and I got super frustrated and burnt out from it. And so that's kind of when I had this amazing divine intervention of a thought that happened in the shower, where all amazing ideas come to us.
Absolutely.
And I was familiar with Etsy at that point because I was selling these Cricut mugs and shirts, which is just so cringy now when I look back at it. But we all have to start somewhere, right? If you see some of the pictures of the stuff I sold back then and knowing that where I am now, it's all start somewhere. But I started creating these digital products, which are something that when I started, it was June 2020. So I was virtual teaching. I was at home. I was already creating these products online, these like worksheet type, these PDF files. So I was already on my computer making these. And it was just kind of this, what if I sold this? And I put it up on Etsy, and somebody bought it. And I'm talking $2.75. Okay. Like I'm not talking that I put something up for $100 and somebody bought it. It was like a $3 product and it sold. And at that moment, I could have very easily been like, oh, this isn't working. I only made $2. But instead, my mindset shift at that point was, oh my God, I just sold something. If I could sell this one thing, I could sell another. And so my mindset just became obsessed. And I realized I made it once and it sold over and over and over again. To this day, in April 2024, or is it March? I don't even know what day it is. Now, spring 2024, I am still selling products that I made in June of 2020. And I have not done anything, with that product. So when I started to see that true passive income actually works, I was working on my digital products during my prep period when the kids were going to sleep. I would wake up an hour early, but it was something that required me to take my time whenever I wanted it, whenever I could piece together that time. I think that that's different than, when you have to be a social media manager and you have to specifically be on and engaging with other people, or doing some kind of freelance or client work where you have to work on a schedule and have meetings. Like I didn't have any of that. So I got to squeeze in these little times and I was able to shut my laptop if I needed to. And I think that kind of business model that I was diving into aligned so much with what my values were and where my life was going that I became just obsessed with it. And so because of that mindset, that's what grew me. I made within my first 6 months, I only made $15,000, which is still great, but that's first 6 months. And then my following year, I made over $125,000 in passive income on Etsy. So that, I hit my first 6 figures within a year and a half, less than a year and a half. And so when I was getting this income, my husband was like, are we allowed to spend this money? Like, is this real? He genuinely, and I was like, I don't know. I think so. And it was just so real that dream that I always had, that entrepreneurial spirit about me, that dream of being free to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them, and things that lit me up, and being able to be present with my kids actually started to feel so much closer than it ever had. And that's when I just decided to go all in with it.
Amazing. I love that so much. And just the fact that you were able to find something that fits around what you're doing, and picking something where you're not trading that time for money thing, that you're able to, like you say, shut the laptop down when you need to, and and work on something at the same time as you're prepping for something else, and you're using the PDFs anyway. But I think really the most important message there that I heard when you were doing that was that, okay, it was $3 that first sale, but you made that first sale, and you could have taken it either way of like, well, that wasn't very much, I'm not going to do that anymore, this isn't going to work. Or actually, if I've done this once, I can do it again. And I can remember when I got my first sale through, I literally stood in the kitchen doing a happy dance, and it was $2.99. It was exactly the same, but it's just like, wow, this, it works. And I think that that's such an important message about the mindset of having that right mindset, of then having that drive and motivation that you've shown yourself that you can do it once, you can do it again and again and again. And the beauty of that is that once you've created it, like you say, you don't have to do anything else with it. It just sits there, and away it goes, and it does its thing.
It totally is. I mean, and I have met so many people before I started coaching people on how to actually do this. There was somebody who was friends with me at my work, at my job, at teaching, and she wanted to create nursery prints. And I was teaching her how to do it. And I'm like, this is such a great idea. I'm talking, she was phenomenal. And she had this social media game, which I didn't use social media. I'll get to that in a little bit, but she loved social media. And she was just amazing at it. Well, she made 100 sales, and she looked at me, she's like, it's just not enough. Like, this isn't going to work for me. I'm just not making enough money from this. And I'm looking at her like, oh my gosh, if I made that amount of sales in that short amount of time, I would be sick. She shut down her shop and packed it up and was like, this wasn't enough for me. It's that mindset shift. Like, the products that I was making were not even close to that. And I was still making that income. And I truly believe, all this stuff about research and how to create a digital product and all that, that's the stuff that you can very easily go on YouTube and find. Like, you can find that stuff. What you can't teach, or what you can't just find, is that mindset within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also need to learn a really good strategy of having to use all of these things, but it's the mindset is, I think, the most important part of just sitting down and being like, I refuse to fail at this. And this is showing me success. And I'll tell you, my success, multiple six figures in digital products, I never sold anything over $13. Nothing.
Amazing. That just shows the power of it, though, doesn't it? And you think that once it starts, you get that snowball effect, and it starts, the number of sales that you've had, you add those up, it makes it up to a lot of income. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think that what people don't understand about the digital products is the profit margin is almost 100% profit. So, when Etsy takes their fees, it doesn't hit digital product sellers as hard as it would a physical product seller. With physical products, when you sell something, the profit margin is between like 20 and 50%, because you have, your labor costs, you have Etsy fees, you have materials, you have shipping, you have all of these costs that are incorporated into that physical product. Plus, physical products, I remember when I was selling that on the Etsy, I would have an order come in, I'd be like, yay, crap, I have to make this. Like, it would be this, like, and then I had to take my time out and like do the whole thing and then ship it. And with digital products, the profit margin is between 75 to 90% with those Etsy fees. And people also talk about print on demand. The truth about print on demand is that the profit margin is really only between like 10 to 30%. So it might seem like your revenue, oh my gosh, I just made $300 in sales. Yeah, but you're really only bringing home like $50 of that. So people need to understand profit margins. So when I say my highest product was $13, and that was just a bundle of individual products, my profit margin for a $13 product was like $11.75.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting that in other kinds of products that you're selling.
Absolutely. And even like with the physical products, as well as the additional cost, you're still trading that time for money thing, because you're having to take out the time to actually make the product and ship it and everything else. So that is the digital products. The reason I love them so much is that they are that set and forget. Once you've done it, that's it. And then the more you sell, the more your profit margin increases. It's incredibly powerful. So when you're talking about looking at your job and then coming and realizing that you'd made triple that income and making the time it was deciding to switch, how did you get to that point that enough is enough? Because I know that that's come up a lot with some of my clients, of when do they make that switch, of when do they jump ship? Are they going to be okay? Are they, they're letting go of the pension and everything else that comes with their work and all of the benefits to just go out on their own, and that fear of hoping that everything goes okay? How did you get to that point where you knew it was time to go and that you were going to be okay?
It's so scary, right? Like, I mean, for 2 years, I was completely paralyzed with fear about it. Like, I could not allow myself to even really think about it. What I ended up doing was, I had said to my husband, I was making all this money on the side. I can't believe it. Like, even just looking back on it, it's just so ridiculous, because I'm like, I'm making all this money from this, but I still felt so handcuffed, and the bottom line was, I was so unhappy in my job. And I don't know if it's because I already felt like I could see something else brewing over here, and I knew that I had a way out. But, my whole life it was, focus on your pension, focus on your future, focus on security, focus all these things. And you feel stuck. I remember going to one of my coworkers and being like, hey, like, I'm doing this thing on the side. Like, what do you think? Is this? And her reaction was just, oh my gosh, you could never leave teaching. What are you talking about? You have a great job. You're going to be set when you retire when you're 65. And I'm looking down a pipeline of like another, 25 years, 30 years. I'm like, I can't do it. I cannot make it to that point. Like, I don't want to make it to that point. And so for about 2 years, it was tumultuous within myself of this back and forth. I would convince myself one way, and then I would convince myself another way. And then my husband and my parents couldn't listen to me talk anymore. I mean, it was just like, what do you think? Maybe I'll give it like 5 more years and then we'll just see. Or, and it got to the point where I think, we follow, God has a plan for us. And, I think that when we're not listening to him, he makes sure that we listen to him when time comes, like when push comes to shove. My last year of teaching became so incredibly toxic for me that I left on that last day of school and I could not imagine walking back into the building that next year. And so it took me about a month in the summer where I actually just kind of sat down and was like, what is worth it? My mental health or this security in this pension? And I had to really sit down and do a deep dive within myself and figure out like, what is bringing me joy? What is bringing me happiness? What am I really scared of? And if I leave, is this really the only option in my life is teaching? Like I have to be that, I have to do this. And the more soul searching I did, it was like, well, yeah, okay, if I fail, I'll just go get a different job. I'm fine. I have a lot of skills that'll transition from one to another. I'll be fine. I need to give this a chance because I'm going to regret this. And as soon as I put my resignation in, not only did nobody care at my school, like administration, like couldn't care less. They were like, okay, thanks, for all your whatever. But all of that weight, all of that stress, all of that fear, all of that just in an instant was released off of me. I can't tell you how much gratitude and, just immense joy I feel every morning when I wake up because I no longer have the pressures of that any longer. And so it's not even so much about like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I drive like a brand new Lamborghini and I bought a beach house and I did, that sounds great, but it's not about that. It is just the freedom of no longer having to deal with whatever you're dealing with in your 9 to 5 or what you're missing out at home. And things are fine. Like things are fine. We made it work. We went on my husband's benefits. There's things that you do differently just because your finances are different, and we're fine. My kids are happier than ever. They get to cuddle with me every single morning. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed for my life, and I still reach out and I still talk to the people that I work with. And as soon as they tell me something, I'm like, I am so happy I'm not there anymore. It's really when you take a look at what is best for me and my mental health and my emotional health, what is best for me? And you put yourself first for once, because as moms, don't we always put everybody else first?
Yes.
And so when we put ourselves first, we're actually putting everybody else first too, because when you change yourself and you change, what's going on inside of you, it completely has this snowball effect on everybody else. So, you really just have to put yourself first and stop being scared because your fear is not, that's just hiding what you're really supposed to do. You just have to get past that fear because on the other side of fear is everything that you could possibly imagine that you want in your life.
Amazing. I absolutely love that. That is just, and it is so, so true that fear holds us back and we want to stay safe. And it's our monkey mind telling us to stay safe because it wants to protect us. But usually those moments where we are most scared, those are the moments where they are going to lead to something incredible. And that is usually the indication that we should be doing that. So I'm so glad that you shared that then. And especially knowing then that, although it was a scary thought process, so should I, shan't I, taking that time to do that dive deep and really think about what you wanted, but with the perspective of what is best for you, what is best for your emotional health, what is best for your mental health. And you're absolutely right that when we do that and when we tap into that and give ourselves permissions to do what is right for us, that's when everybody else around us thrives as well, because we are being us and we are doing the things that light us up. I love that. That is brilliant. So how would you say that your experience as a teacher has aligned with helping you to sell your digital products on Etsy?
Yeah, I think what with just creating digital products, like it's just a worksheet, it's just a piece of paper online. I mean, I think as a teacher, we are naturally creative in that sense, we enjoy those kinds of things. So to me, that was fun. That was my creative outlet part of, that I did enjoy with teaching. I mean, like I said, I was a gym teacher, so I didn't get to do it all that often. It wasn't something that I did all the time. But so when I started kind of tapping into that, I really enjoyed it. And then learning the way that, and all I use is Canva. I don't use any kind of fancy, Photoshop, anything. I just use Canva. For a long time, I used the free version. I do use the pro version because you have to. It's the most amazing thing in the world. But, even just using the free version, you could go on and create a million different things. It's completely endless. So I think that not only did my creativity from teaching kind of translate into that, but what it really translated for me was now that I've shifted into this role of coaching other people how to sell digital products on Etsy, just that teaching aspect, that skill of teaching and teaching other people how to do something that has translated more. I think it's a big difference of trying to teach high school students to do physical education. I have better luck at getting my kids to brush their teeth at night than getting a kid to participate in gym class. So, there are a lot of elements that have translated not only just in the teaching aspect, but on the creativity aspect as well with Etsy. And what I do love about Etsy is, and this digital product business, is that it really was a faceless business for 3 years because, well, it still is. My Etsy shop, people still don't know what my Etsy shop is because it doesn't have my name on it. And I thought that was such a cool thing. I never had to put myself out there. I never had to reach out to, the high school people that you didn't really talk to and over Facebook. I didn't have to post it up in groups or be on social media or ask friends and families for sales. It was something that was totally faceless. I just had a logo and nobody knew it was me. And I was able to have success and work on that behind the scenes. I didn't have my job saying, hey, what are you doing? You're working on something else. I didn't have myself out there. And I think in this day and age, with everybody telling you that social media is the only way to market an online business, I'm telling you right now, it's not true. I started a social media for my Etsy business because I believed that was the only way that you're going to be successful is if you have social media. And I started it. And when I started to look at the data, so in April 2021, I looked at my data finally, and I looked at it and I was like, where is my traffic coming from? And I noticed that nobody was coming from social media, literally nobody. And then when I go back to my social media, I'm like, well, look at my last post. There were 3 likes. It was my husband, my mom, and my best friend. I know that my success is not because of social media. So I completely stopped social media for my shop. I said, I'm done. I'm not even focusing on it. And I focused on where the traffic was coming from. And I created strategies around where that traffic was coming from. And the biggest part, and the reason why I love Etsy so much, is because there are 96 million built-in customers that have their wallets out coming onto that site. So people can say what they want about Etsy. The fact of the matter is people are coming there to buy.
Mm-hmm.
If I had something if I was selling a $3 fitness tracker for people who are interested in fitness to just an accountability, if I was looking for that resource for fitness accountability, I'm not going to Instagram to find that. I'm not going there. So why would somebody focus their efforts on marketing on that platform when that's not where that person is going? So leveraging that 96 million customers with their wallets out is the biggest flex that an Etsy seller could have, because where else are you going to get that kind of traffic other than like Amazon, eBay, those kinds of things? So that's why, Etsy is just such an amazing platform to really start too. Like, I'm not going anywhere on Etsy, but if you have no experience with anything, Etsy makes it the easiest to start, to learn, and to really just get like a good grasp on how online business works without any of the risk and all the reward.
Amazing. And it's so, so true that they're not going to be hanging out on Instagram for that. And I'm exactly the same. I've got the biggest love-hate thing with Instagram that I recently switched from and got rid of an archived 800 plus posts. I've got a 9 grid and I don't do anything with it. And that works for
For
me.
you.
And it's just one of those things at the end of last year. I'm like, nope, I'm done with this. I'm not going to play that game anymore. And I get far more from my Facebook group. And exactly with Etsy, like you say, they are sitting there waiting. They have got their wallets out. They are expecting to pay. They are ready to pay. They are going there looking with an intent to buy. And they've already got all of the people on there. So it's kind of a no-brainer in that respect, isn't it? And I know
Absolutely.
that you've got some tips that you're going to share for people getting started, just getting out, and with it, and also, like you said, with that emphasis without social media and paid ads. Before we do that, and you mentioned your strategy, so I'm really curious. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about your strategy of how you have gone from 0 to 6 figures in 2 years? Because that is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So I think that I kind of did it by accident in the beginning. And then when I started to realize like, oh, this is why this is working, um, it was because I niched down so small. Like, I think that people have this false sense of, well, I want to make the most money, so I need to sell to everybody. And I need to just have this really broad umbrella of who I sell to, because if I have my products out there, I want the most amount of people to come to this. The thing is that when you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. And it looks like your shop or your brand or you are just super confusing because you're selling all the things and you're trying to do all the things. When you niche down so specifically, like, so for example, let's say that you wanted to sell something about wedding. If your entire shop was wedding, that's like such a massive niche, and it's so oversaturated to be able to stand out into a wedding niche. But if you started to get deeper and deeper and deeper into your micro niche within weddings, like, it could be specifically that you sell only like rustic bohemian wedding. That's it. That like just that type of wedding. And you could do all invitations and all cake to all the matching things, but that is just your only theme, is that. Or you go specifically to, you just sell birthday invitations. So you don't sell anything else, but you sell all birthday invitations. So somebody comes to your shop, they know I'm getting a birthday invitation here, that they don't need to sort through all the other crap just to get to what they're actually looking for. So I think that when you niche down, and you can even do that, you could either do it by the product that you sell, just one specific product, or one super niched like element or target audience. So for example, if your target audience was something so super specific that was like, I sell social media templates and resources for real estate agents, and like that's all you sell, and you're super specific to that, you are going to drive so much more traffic because your messaging is on point, your keywords are on point, you are typing in and finding what the pain points are for that specific person who is coming to your shop. So they're going to look at that and be like, oh, that's an automatic buy, compared to somebody who is all over the place in their shop, not really sure what keywords they're using, not really sure about the SEO or who their target audience is, and just basically throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to make sales. So I think like one of the biggest strategies that I could say is niche down into something that's going to be uncomfortable, because you're going to
Mm.
think, I need to sell to everybody to make money. Then the riches are in the niches. So stay there. And then also, never sell anything that is not in high demand. So I think, of course, the unicorn products are these high demand, low saturation, and they exist and they're out there if you do the proper research. And you have to do the research in order to be successful on Etsy. But even if there's a product that's in really high demand and you look at it and you're like, oh, there's no way, like I'm never going to make any sales in that. All you need to do is take that high demand product and position yourself and your product uniquely in that saturated market. So when you create your own lane and you position yourself just slightly uniquely in that saturated market, you now have eliminated all of your competition. So that's kind of like going after high demand products is the best thing that you can do, because you don't want to be going on there and being like, oh, I want to create something that I want to create. It's not about you. It's not about, especially if you want to make a business, like your business isn't about you. Your business is the vehicle that allows you to do the things that you want to do. So you need to sell to your audience and what your audience wants. Your business is about your audience and your customers. So what do they want, and create that. So those would be like my biggest things.
Yeah. And it really is the riches in the niches, because then you're getting super, super specific. And we know that we've all heard that if you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody. And I love that you've shared about how you just get super, super, super niche. And I think actually that's a really great second tip you had there about going after that high competition stuff, because when there's so much out there that actually says that if there's a big competition, avoid it, go and find something that's got that lower competition. But if you can find a unique slant to that makes you stand out, and then you're sitting up alongside that, then and they can choose you over them, then that's going to be a surefire way to make sure that you're making those sales. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay, so let's dive in then. And have you just got a few tips that you can share to help people get started and getting themselves set up and out there without using social media, without using paid ads, and just making the most of those so many people out there sitting with their wallets open?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, get started. Like, stop thinking about it and just get started. I think that selling digital products on Etsy is such a low risk way. And the reason why is because it takes 20 cents for you to set up a listing. You can set up an entire shop on Etsy of 50 listings for less than $10. So you have nothing to lose by just trying this. You're not spending money to have your own Shopify site and spending all this money in paid advertising. Like, when you learn a strategy to leverage that 96 million and to learn how to do proper SEO and keywords, where to exactly to put them, how to get the correct messaging to your audience, you don't need to do anything on Etsy except for create the listing the right way, and Etsy does the work for you. So when you are putting in and you are making the products match what people are actually typing up in the search bar, that is what's going to get you your sales. So really, your marketing on the Etsy platform should be your number one thing that you focus on. The actual creation of the product, that will take time, as far as like, just you can get something out there as long as it's a researched product. So that this is something. Let me back up just a second. Number one, open your shop. Just open it. Number two, do all the research. You don't create products without doing research, because if you get all excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I love gardening and I just want to make all these gardening digital products, I just want to make all these things. And then you make all the products and then you go and you put it up on Etsy and you're like, yay, let's wait for sales. And then they never come. Well, yeah, of course they didn't come, because you didn't do the proper research beforehand. So do the proper research, then create the products, optimize your shop so that all of the keywords that are in high demand, the things that people are searching for, the colors, the themes, the emotions, all of that is put into your listing. It is primed to sell. Then you put that up there and you say, okay, now I'm ready to make the sales. It's people get too excited and they say, oh, I want to make a grocery checklist. And they throw that up on Etsy and expect, like, okay, well, I did it. I made a digital product. Why aren't my sales coming? Well, it's because, did you do any research about that grocery checklist? Are you using the right keywords with that grocery checklist? Do people even want a grocery checklist? So those kinds of things is the biggest part about being successful on the Etsy platform, because the majority of your traffic is going to come from them. They have the built-in traffic for you. And social media isn't going to be it. You're just going to waste your time. I actually believe social media will hurt your business because you're wasting time on social media when you could be using that time to focus on strategies that actually work. So that would be like my biggest: get started, open the shop, do your research, then create the listings with that supported research.
Excellent. That is such a good point, because I think we can get, like you say, so excited to dive in and go create everything and do it. But actually, we just need to spend some time taking that step back and doing that research first, because that's actually going to save us time in the long run, and it's going to make us more success faster in the long run. That we just need to spend that time, I think, also with that mindset attached that the shop isn't about us, it's about the person that's going to buy and what are they looking for, and get honed in on the niche. That is awesome. That's really, really good tips to get started. And like you said, just open the shop, especially like you said, it's low risk, and it could be faceless as well, because I think sometimes that's what holds a lot of people back with starting their businesses, and thinking that they have to be on social media and that you have to have your face and show up and be there and be present and be, but you can just, like you said, start with a logo, and it can be totally faceless. You don't have to come out to all of your friends and everything else and beg them for
Yeah, no.
sales. You can just let them do its thing. So that is amazing. Thank you so much for all of that. Before we
Yes.
wrap up, I've got a question that I always like to ask all of my guests that come on the show. But before we do that, have you just got one piece of advice just to wrap up that you'd like to finish on, that as like one big key takeaway message that you could share that would help everybody?
Yeah, I think everything that you've ever dreamed of, and this is so cliche, but everything that you've ever dreamed of and wanted for your life is on the other side of that fear that you have. And so all of that fear that you have of, you know, I'm not good enough, I don't have any experience, I don't know how to do that kind of business, I don't know where to start, I don't have time for that. All of that, or I can't leave my job, or I can't give up this or that, all that fear is just holding you back. And when you push past all that fear, the most amazing things are waiting for you on the other side.
Amazing. That is such a perfect way to wrap up. Brilliant. Thank you so, so much. And so the question that I love to ask all of my guests is, what does being an unapologetic mompreneur mean to you? And how do you show up unapologetically every day, both as a mum and as the boss of your business?
Oh my gosh. Like, I genuinely, the unapologetic for me is I don't answer to anybody now. Like, I love doing everything like for myself. I mean, I'm unapologetic in the sense of like, I love what I do. I love to wake up in the morning. I never woke up at 4:30 in the morning when I was teaching, ever. Like, I would wake up, hit snooze 5 times, and then roll out of bed. I wake up at 5 a.m., 4:35 a.m. every morning, because I want to get in at least 2 hours of work, because I want to spend time with my kids in the morning. And I'm unapologetic about that aspect of my life. Like, I love what I do now. And I am also unapologetic for leaving my, you know, teaching job, my secure teaching job, and all the pension and the benefits. I'm unapologetic about leaving that, because I get to spend time with my kids and be able to do the things that I want to do in my life. And that, just all of that, that's what unapologetic means, is like, I put myself first, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone about it. I put myself first, my mental health, my job, my kids, and I don't regret anything for a second.
Incredible. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so, so much. And it's been awesome. I could talk about this with you all day long. And I think I may have to have you come back and we can dive again
I
into
would
a bit
love
more. That
that.
would be so much fun. Now, I know you've got a freebie and a course as well that people can take to get themselves started up on Etsy. So do you want to just quickly share about both of those? We'll make sure the links are in the show notes. But yeah, share a little bit about them and where people can find you and check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a free workshop, a free masterclass. It's about 45-ish minutes, but in that masterclass, I talk about the 3 strategies that got me to be a top 0.1% Etsy seller. And so those things, and I'll just give you a sneak peek on what they are. Not only do I go in depth about digital products, and Etsy, but I also talk about how to get more traffic to your shop, how to create more sales in your shop, and how to scale your business to 6 figures and beyond. And that's all in that free masterclass. So go ahead and watch that, totally free. It'll give you amazing insights on how to open up your Etsy shop the right way with a good strategy. And then if people want to talk with me, I don't love Instagram, but that is a really great place for me to kind of communicate through messages. So you won't see me posting up there all the time, but that's a great place for you to come and chat with me. My email list is also a really great place. Like if you go ahead and sign up for the webinar, then you'll get on my email list right away. And then that is a really great direct way for you to just talk with me. But my Instagram is at jacquelinebutler.co. So you can come and hang out and see me there. But that is, all my free information is all on there. I do have a course called Etsy Profits Pro, which is where I teach all of the really in-depth nitty-gritty strategies, the how-tos, the optimizations, the how to create the product, the mindset shifts that you need to make, and all the little how-tos that really get my students the success that they're looking for and the freedom that they ultimately want.
Fantastic. They sound amazing. I'm definitely going to go and check out that masterclass, and I will make sure that the links for all of that is in the show notes so people can come and check you out and do it. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. It has been so much fun, and I know it's going to be really empowering for those that have been thinking about it but have been sitting on the fence or feeling a little bit scared, knowing that if they don't want to put their face out there, that they can do it faceless and just have a logo, and ultimately just to make that decision and just go and do it because of, look at your story and what you've been able to achieve. It's just incredible. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.